Hello, I'm Lynn Jensen, certified Vision Rehabilitation Therapist and new author of Best Kept Secrets for Travelers with Sight Loss. And you are listening to White Canes Connect.
Direct from Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, you're listening to Simon Studio, presented by White Canes Connect, the podcast of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. Hey there, PA Federationists. Welcome to another episode of White Canes Connect. I'm your host, Simon Bonenfant, and today we're going to be talking all about travel. Summer is in full swing, and what a better time to take a trip. I know I've been really enjoying traveling throughout the summer. At the time of recording, I just got back last week from the National Federation of the Blind National Convention in Austin, Texas, and I really had a great time. I braved the heat and got to meet up with some friends, make new friends, and hear a lot of live music throughout Austin, which was really great, and enjoy some Texas barbecue. That's one of the highlights. We always love the food at our conventions. My guest today is Lynn Jensen, and she is the author of a recently published book called Best Kept Secrets for Travelers with Sight Loss. Lynn is also a registered nurse and a certified rehabilitation therapist, and she has used all of her experiences throughout her life to compile a wonderful, intuitive, and organized book about all things traveling. The book is designed to assist you in making the most out of every aspect of your travels as a blind or visually impaired person. The book covers topics such as researching your destination for tourist attractions, accommodations, and other needs, traveling by a variety of methods, traveling with a guide dog, staying at a hotel, packing and unpacking, and much more. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the book is the flow, and I read everything through the audiobook, and we talk about that in the interview, the curation and the narrator, Nina Richmond, who does a fantastic job drawing out Lynn's personality throughout the reading. And I really noticed as I was reading, I could tell Lynn's philosophy about life. One of the things that really stood out to me was the advice to make lists and set reminders for yourself. And that way you get in a routine of having checks for yourself to make sure that you have everything in order. And if there does become a problem, you are able to adapt quickly and have everything you need to be safe and be efficient and be comfortable throughout your travels. One of the things that Lynn also mentions is her upcoming virtual series called Best Kept Secrets for Living with Sight Loss. And this is going to be a 17-part virtual series scheduled to launch in September. And to find out all of the information about everything I've shared just now and throughout the interview, you can go to Lynn's website. That's www.blindtraveltips.com. And you can order the book in a variety of formats. You can listen to an audio sample. You can also get a preview of the organization by reading the table of contents. And you can also learn about Lynn's upcoming virtual series when that becomes available. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and get your bags packed, because we're going on a trip. Here's my conversation with Lynn Jensen. Well, Lynn, it's wonderful to be speaking with you today on the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Simon, and I'm so excited to be here.
The primary focus of the podcast is to talk about your new book, Best Kept Secrets for Travelers with Sight Loss. But first, let's talk about you and your background and how you came to this work. Your book is really based off of your lived experiences and the experiences of others, and I really enjoyed reading it and learning about your background. So why don't you start off by giving the listeners a little bit about what you do?
I am a registered nurse. In fact, I graduated from the University of British Columbia School of Nursing 7 months prior to my sudden and complete sight loss. I was determined to return to the profession. It was my certified professionals who pointed me in the direction of this field. I knew nothing about vision rehabilitation therapy. I absolutely love my career. For 24 years, I worked at a vision rehabilitation center in Vancouver, Canada. Today, I work as an independent consultant. I deliver skills training to individuals and groups, both virtually and in person.
And how did it come about that you came to write the book? Give us a little bit of a background to that story.
Back in December 2022, a coworker and former client asked if I would take time during my Christmas vacation and write a short list of travel tips for people who are blind or have low vision. When I sat down to write the list, I just couldn't stop. Eventually, I presented my manuscript to my guide dog mobility instructor, and it was her feedback that convinced me to make it bigger and better. Over the years, I've had several clients tell me that they stopped traveling as a result of their sight loss. I want those clients to know that they can continue to do the things that they love, including travel. A couple of years ago, a client told me about her trip to Mexico with her husband. She was new to sight loss, and because she didn't have the skills and the confidence to venture off on her own, she was confined to her hotel room when her husband went off fishing for the entire day. And that was another reason that I was determined to make this book available to everyone in the blind community. Ultimately, I hope every person in the hospitality and tourism industry reads the book as well. I think it's important for them to realize the different accommodations that can be made to make the experience more pleasurable and possible.
Yes, and it really comes through in your book the way that you use your lived experience to narrate some of the reasoning behind the way you present the tips and really just your philosophy about life. I could tell I really got into a zone while I was reading it of just sitting back and listening to the way that you write and the way that you think about life could really come through. I like the way you talk about making lists and having reminders to go with those lists, and the organizational level is great for anyone, blind or not.
Definitely. I totally agree with you. I think of sight loss as a big experiment in problem solving.
Tell us how you structured the book. I noticed that when I started to read it, I could tell as I was going through the chapters that there was a structure to how you ordered the chapters and thought about the journey. And there's going to be a lot of people who are reading the book and getting certain aspects from it that apply to them, and maybe others that don't in certain ways or depending on certain trips. But you really did a nice job of structuring the order that's going to be as generalized and as specific for each person in their journey. So, can you tell us about that?
Best Kept Secrets for Travelers with Sight Loss is packed with practical tips on every aspect of travel, including planning and packing for your trip, traveling domestically and internationally by plane, train, and ship, navigating in unfamiliar places, traveling alone or with a companion, traveling with a guide dog, of course. I've got two of them curled up at my feet as we speak, getting around your hotel and organizing your room, dining in restaurants, utilizing apps and other technology, and so much more. That is just the body of the book. In the appendix, I've included two of my most popular blogs, including 6 Ways to See Better. That is an overview of the 6 vision enhancement techniques. And another blog is Lynn's top 25 tips for restaurant dining. There is an appendix that covers self-protection techniques, so you don't injure yourself as you're moving about your unfamiliar hotel room. Sighted guide technique. There's an appendix that overviews the tools and technologies mentioned throughout the book. And of course, there's also an appendix that overviews the alt text for the photographs in the book. One section of my book includes a photo gallery of my favorite 4-legged travel companions on various adventures around the globe.
Yes, and one of the things you say in the book is that You've been to 13 countries. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was just with my first guide dog, actually. We traveled to 13 countries, 14 states, 5 provinces, and 1 territory in her 8.5 year career, which is pretty amazing for a dog.
Wow, that was just in 8 years.
That
So
was
you've
just
been
in
to
eight
more
and a half
countries
years.
than that then.
I have been to a
Wow.
few more countries than that. Keep in mind, I do work full time and I only get so much vacation time. So I do have big plans for my retirement. Yeah, I certainly enjoy traveling. It started at a young age. I have an identical twin sister, and when we started driving, we would go on road trips a lot together. So we've explored a lot of Canada and the United States. Keep in mind, we were starving students at that point in time. And then, of course, when I lost my vision, I do my best to continue to do what I love. I just do it in a different way.
Throughout the book, you talk about ways that people can talk to the people that they're traveling with and talk to the people that they may encounter to make the experience a bit easier and really have strategies to self advocate and make the journey as comfortable as possible. Can you touch on that?
Learning to self advocate is absolutely critical. And it's a skill that's learned through experience, trial and error. It's important to start small. Let's say, for example, you're at the grocery store and you want to find your favorite jar of jam in the aisle. Ask somebody to assist you in locating that particular item. And over time, you'll just build confidence and you'll be able to use those self advocacy skills in other areas in your life, including travel. So let's say, for example, you are at the airport and somebody offers you assistance to the baggage carousel. That person might grab your arm without realizing that that's not the best way to assist a person who is blind or has low vision. So I would encourage you to break the contact and then consider that moment a teachable moment. Explain to the person, assuming you do want assistance, that it works best for you if you take their arm above their elbow and then go into more detail on proper sighted guide technique. I always have to remind myself that I knew nothing about blindness before I was thrown into the situation. I might have been somebody that did something inappropriate or said something inappropriate. So I have to tell myself, stay calm and show the person how they can best assist you. Again, that's assuming that I want assistance. If you don't want assistance, well, politely decline.
Yes, that's a good point, and that's a really good philosophy to have as well in thinking about. I find that many people mean well, they just don't always know how to help in the best way possible. And while that can be frustrating at times, just having that awareness that they don't really know any different, but it's up to us
Exactly.
to teach them and show them the positive philosophy that we have.
I totally agree with you, Simon.
Well, you talk in the book about traveling with a guide dog a lot, and you have a whole chapter about that. And one of the things I found interesting is at the end of the book, you talk about the resistance that you had at one time to getting a guide dog and how that changed. Can you share a little bit about that with the listeners and what changed for you in that process?
I'm laughing right now. I'll admit I am not a dog person, even to this day. I absolutely love my dogs, and I'm sure glad they managed to find their way into my life. I never applied to get a guide dog. There was no way I was going to have a stinky, filthy, furry dog in my house. One day out of the blue, I got a phone call from my orientation and mobility instructor, and she told me that she wanted to take me out for ice cream. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done wrong? And that's the day she told me there was a guide dog out there with my name on it. I had a weekend to decide. I went home and I cried for that entire weekend. I did not want to accept the dog, but at the end of the day, I knew I had to. I have extremely poor balance as the result of a brain injury, and I cannot maintain a straight line traveling with a white cane. And as you know, that's very important. There are some incredible cane travelers out there. I was not one of them. So reluctantly, I picked up the phone and I phoned BC and Alberta Guide Dogs and I said, yes, I would go ahead with training. Bill brought the dog to me the following Friday. Actually, it was a Saturday. That doesn't matter though. When I opened the door, I had tears streaming down my face. Bill brought the dog into my home. I sat down on my sofa and pulled my feet up so she couldn't touch me. For weeks, I had a board against my bedroom door so she couldn't come in my bedroom. But somewhere during the part-time training, I refused to train full-time. I fell in love with her. And as I said, she was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for my guide dogs.
Well, that's wonderful, and I'm sure that it's a great thing to tell your clients about as well, to have that personal experience. And there's a lot of people who feel resistant to using a cane. And that's one of the things that I know helps a lot of people is to hear the stories of others of just how freeing that can be and how freeing it can be to use a guide dog. And then something clicks for them to be able to have their own experience in that way.
Getting a white cane is one of the most difficult things I've ever done. I remember when I received my white cane, I cried. I absolutely cried. I didn't want to go out in the world with this tool. And I can understand people's reluctance because obviously I've been there. But I always tell my clients to consider that tool your badge of honor. It's going to allow you to get out and do the things that you love and allow you to stay safe. Keep in mind, if you are totally opposed to a white cane because it does identify you as a person with sight loss, you can get colored canes. In fact, I have a completely Barney purple cane. I use it at my Toastmasters club every day, and I use it when I'm in my yard because obviously a white cane isn't important in those situations. Everybody at my Toastmasters club knows that I can't see, but I still need to be able to get up to the lectern and back down to my seat safely. And it allows me to do that.
Well, that's great. And you talked about your work in Toastmasters. Can you tell us about that?
I think joining Toastmasters is one of the smartest things I ever did. I have always been fearful of public speaking, and it has given me the confidence to get out and to speak in front of, small groups and large groups. As a result of this confidence, I went on to develop a series of virtual independent living skills workshops called Best Kept Secrets for Living with Sight Loss. You can see where the title of the book came about. I am bringing these virtual workshops back to life as an independent consultant. In fact, I'm working with a web developer as we speak, and I hope to have them available in the fall, starting in September. I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not developed my public speaking skills. I've met some amazing people too. There's something about being at a Toastmaster club and surrounded by people who want to better themselves. I mean, that's pretty empowering.
Talk us through a little bit the virtual workshop that you're talking about. Is that going to be a compilation of your teachings for the work that you do as a low vision therapist?
Yes, the Best Kept Secrets for Living with Sight Loss series has 17 one-hour virtual workshops on Zoom. And the skills that you learn range from the basics, including the 6 vision enhancement technique, self-protection technique, grid pattern technique used for cleaning and locating dropped objects. You will learn kitchen skills, including pouring hot and cold beverages, spreading jam or butter on bread, cutting vegetables, stovetop and oven cooking, identifying clothing colors, money management, makeup application. The list goes on and on and on. And these workshops are interactive. I think it's really important to bring people together. And of course, being virtual workshops, I plan to reach out to people who are blind or have low vision across Canada and the United States. Simon, you have to keep in mind that some people, when you live in a remote city or town or village, you might even be the only person with sight loss. So being able to connect with people who have common goals, interests, it's so empowering and inspiring. The workshops are a series of demonstrations, discussions, and videos. I describe the information as much as possible. If a client does require individual instruction following a workshop, I can certainly provide that virtually or in person if they live in the Metro Vancouver area.
Well, that's a wonderful wealth of information that you're going to be sharing. And I know you mentioned your website that you're working on right now for that. But if our listeners are interested in staying updated when that becomes available, where can they find that information?
I will be sure to link my book website, blindtraveltips.com, to my Vision Rehabilitation site. So if you watch blindtraveltips.com, you will be able to access my new website when it is available.
Well, that's a great segue to talk about your current website where you can buy the book in several different formats, as I did, and you can learn a bit about Lynn and the resources that she mentioned and some of the topics we were talking about today. Take us to an overview of your site and how people can buy the book and the different formats that are available.
Best Kept Secrets for Travelers with Sight Loss is available on my website, blindtraveltips.com, and through the main online book retailers. It is available in 5 different formats, including regular print paperback, large print paperback, ebook, so accessible EPUB 3, and that is compatible with a braille display using a free download like Thorium reader, and audiobook, both MP3 and Daisy. If you're looking for the Daisy format, it is only available on my website. And if you purchase the large print paperback book from my website, it is coil bound, allowing the book to lay flat for easier reading with a magnification aid.
Well, thank you for that information. And I bought the book in audio in the MP3 format, and it had all the chapters and subsections broken down. And I really liked the audiobook version. What was the process to get that produced?
I have never self-published a book before, so I learned a lot. I had to do my homework and find an audiobook publisher. And then going through the process, I also had to select a narrator. That became a contest with my family and friends. And we chose Nina Richmond, who is the current narrator. If anyone is interested in listening to a sample of the audiobook, you can find that on the homepage of my website. Again, that's blindtraveltips.com. There is also a link to the table of contents. It was quite a process doing the audiobook. Once the narrator recorded the entire book, I had to get a family member to sit down and listen to the recording against the print copy of the book to make sure that there weren't any errors. There were a few corrections that needed to be made, and then they had to listen to those areas again. It was very exciting, though. It was really important to me that this book was available in the formats that are required by the blind community.
Well, I thought your narrator did a really great job of the reading, and I could tell your personality through the way that she read it. The inflection was great, and it was very relaxing and easy to listen to.
I think she did a fantastic job. I especially like how she exaggerated the R for
Oh,
the
yes.
pirate sound. Oh my God, I laughed out loud when I heard that.
Well, as we close our time together, I know you mentioned in the book several places that you've been throughout the tips, and you talk about a lot of recommendations in regards to those particular places. But while we have you, I figured you could share a few recommendations of countries or cities in those particular countries that you've been that might be great for blind travelers.
There are so many places to travel to. I'd hate to just select one or two. It's important that you do your homework. Feed the town into a chatbot and find out what you get as results as far as the accommodations for people who are blind or have low vision. But don't trust everything that is given to you. It's important to contact the original source and verify the information. But doing your homework beforehand is vital. There are many times where you might need to have certain technologies to take advantage of the accommodations. A few years back, for example, when I traveled to Disneyland, I found out that they had audio description and wayfinding technology, but I needed to bring a compatible headset. Had I just shown up at the gates, I might not have learned about this accommodation, and I certainly wouldn't have had the compatible headset on me. In some cases, I've heard at attractions, you can actually arrange to have a guide available to go through the venue with you, but you need to have 48 hours notice. So it's another example of where the preparation is important.
Well, as we close our time, is there anything else you'd like to discuss with our listeners?
I want to leave you with one final thought, and it's simply this. Don't let low vision or blindness stop you from traveling.
Thank you for that. And from what you talk about in the book and speaking with you today, I really understand that you don't let anything stop you from traveling or doing anything else you want in life. And that's a great way to live. And I know that you're a great role model to your clients. And for the listeners, I strongly suggest that you check out the website in the show notes. And if you're interested in being a part of the 17 virtual workshop series coming up starting September, keep an eye out on the website to learn more. And thank you for your time, Lynn.
Thank you for having me, Simon. It was a pleasure.
I had such a great time talking to Lynn, and I'd like to thank Lynn for taking the time to conduct this interview. I hope you enjoyed learning about Lynn's travels, her experiences, and all the work that she's doing to help the blind and visually impaired communities excel in all that they do. If you missed any of the information in the audio, it's all there in the show notes for you, so feel free to check that out. Do you have a travel tip that we should know about? We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call at 267-338-4495 or send us an email at whitecanesconnect@gmail.com. I really appreciate you listening today. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.